Good afternoon, students. The next topic that we are going to see in fact, this is the last part of chapter 4 in disaster management, is important statutes and legal provisions. Statutes means laws. Okay, what are the laws that have been created by our country, and what are the legal provisions for disaster management? So, first, we see that India is one of the most disaster prone countries in the world. There are a lot of, we have seen in the previous chapters that every kind of disaster can happen in India, and it has happened in the past, both man made and natural. So, these disasters have happened right from many hundreds of years. So, we lived in the British period before this, before we got independence. So, even after independence, the Indian government did not make any act or laws for the disaster management. And also, the constitution, which is actually the list of laws for our country, does not have anything about the disaster management. So finally, after various disasters happened in India, the Indian Parliament made an act in the year 2005, and it's called the Disaster Management Act. It has got all the details of what should be done, who are responsible, and how disasters have to be managed. So let us see what this Disaster Management Act of 2005 tells about. So this Disaster Management Act says that all the people who have the power in the government should ensure that they mitigate or reduce the risk of disasters, and also ensure that the people do not suffer. So right from the national level, so the central government, then the state government, and the district level, so every area who is responsible, what their responsibilities are, and what they should do has been listed by this Disaster Management Act, and it tells about every disaster and who should do what. So in India, it is a top-down approach. Top-down approach means the leaders at the top, or the central government, they are the ones who have to make the first decision. For example, even in the coronavirus disaster, the central government, the prime minister of the country and the home minister, they are the ones who are mainly involved in the planning, and then the state government is involved, and finally the district actually carries out the plan. So the National Disaster Management Authority, or the NDMA, is the main force or organization that has to ensure that disaster is managed. And under the NDMA, the National Executive Committee, this is the executive arm. Executive arm means they are the ones who implement the various provisions of this law. So these people have to act whenever there is a disaster. So as per this Disaster Management Act of 2005, the NDMA and the NEC not only approve the national plans, means they, whenever there is a disaster at the national level, they approve the plans, and then they also ensure that all the departments and ministries under them, see, for example, the forest department is there. If there is a wildfire in the forest, it comes under the forest department. So though the Disaster Management Act is coming under the home ministry and the home minister is responsible, the forest fire has to be controlled by the forest department. So the home ministry works along with all the other ministries and also departments. So they have made guidelines, so how each of these ministries have to work, and they also have made guidelines about the state, each state, what they should do and what are the policies they have to implement. So the State Disaster Management Authority has been started, and just like the National Executive Committee, each state has the State Executive Committee. So these are the people who will be involved in the state level whenever there is a authority. Other than this, the Disaster Management Act of 2005 also has provisions for the District Disaster Management Authority. We already saw that the district collector is the head of this, and he has to ensure the various provisions of the Disaster Management Act are followed. So he is responsible in case of any disaster, and he takes care of the people and mitigates the suffering of the people in case there is a disaster. So just like the management authorities, the Disaster Management Act also has provision for the human resource development, that is, people have to be trained, there should be capacity building. So the National National Institute of Disaster Management provides training for all people who are involved in disaster, and they are given different kinds of training: how to rescue the people, how to search for people, how to prevent disasters, and they also do a lot of research on how to overcome various kinds of research. So after this training, there are also National Disaster Response Force, the NDRF, which we have already studied about. They have 144 units. So like battalion in the army, they have 144 units of that, which are useful in dealing with different man-made and non-man-made disasters. So one unit will be trained in fire rescue, another one for earthquake rescue, like that. Each unit, and some of the units are trained in more than one disaster. So they are able to overcome all the problems caused by disasters. Other than this, the National Fire Service College trains the fire people. So all the fire prevention people, fire brigade people, they are trained in the National Fire Service College. And the National Civil Defense College also helps in training people who will be taking care of the disaster management. Okay, so these are the provisions of the Disaster Management Act. Though the Disaster Management Act is a central act and it was started in 2005, the state disaster management acts were started by some states. Like Gujarat created a state disaster management act in 2003, even before the national level. And then Bihar made the Bihar state disaster management act in 2004. Like that, the states actually preceded the national level by creating their own acts. So that is something that you have to understand. And other than this, as I told, though the disaster management comes under the Ministry of Home Affairs, all the other ministries have to work. So there are hundreds of other laws, like the Wildlife Act. So any wildfire comes under the Wildlife Act. Like that, other disasters come under each of these categories. Okay, so that is about the that topic. And the next topic and the last topic in this first chapter is IEDs, bomb threat planning, NBC threat and safety measures. So NBC is nothing but nuclear, biological and chemical. Okay, we have already studied about nuclear, biological and chemical earlier chapters, so I'm not going to go in detail. Let's see about IEDs and bomb threat planning. What is IEDs? IEDs are improvised explosive device. So they are actually bombs, but they are not company made bombs. They are usually homemade bombs. Improvised means you make on your own. So these days there are a lot of information about how to make bombs on the internet, so people can easily make bombs. A lot of people use nuts and screws and bolts, pressure cooker, watch, these things to make bombs. So it's if you buy a bomb, the government will know through intelligence agencies. But if you create your own bomb, it is very difficult to find out. So these IEDs are used in many of the terrorist attacks. So IEDs can be kept in vehicles. Even hundreds of kilos of explosives can be kept in vehicles, and they can cause severe amount of damage and cause a lot of deaths and also loss of property. So a lot of terrorists use this in Kashmir, even in Andhra Pradesh by the Naxalites. They use these kind of devices. So it is very important to prevent such bombs from happening. So a threat, usually those who keep the bomb also tell the police, or at least some other people who find out that the bomb is going to be placed, they inform the police. So how is the information received by the police? Usually it is by telephone. Sometimes there is a written message, or it is also sent by email or social media. Sometimes directly some person hears the terrorist talking and they inform the police. So these are the ways in which the police receive information about terrorist attacks, and especially bombs that are going to be burst. So how the terrorists keep these IEDs is, usually they keep them in suitcase or inside vehicles. Sometimes they keep it under the ground or bury it under the ground. So these are the ways in which these bombs are kept usually in public buildings like railway stations, police stations, and even other buildings. The terrorists will keep these bombs. So the bomb can be kept outside a building or inside a building. If it's kept inside the building, it can cause a lot of property damage. Outside the building, the risk is lesser, but people who are standing or walking near the bomb can be injured and they can die. So one way of preventing such bombs is to have good intelligence agency in the country, and also to ensure that the buildings, all the government buildings, have security. Now if you see all the government buildings in Chennai, Mumbai, Delhi, especially the place where chief minister is going or the ministers are going, they have a lot of security, but a lot of other buildings do not have security. So the private building owners should have their own security. So they should check all the bags. Even in Chennai, if you go to a mall, all the bags are checked. They are put through a X-ray machine, and the bags are checked. Same way, airport it is checked. Railway stations nowadays it's not checked, but when there is a bomb threat, the police check all the bags in the railway station also. So it is very important to check each person's baggage before they enter a building. That will reduce the risk of bombs in a building. So if the police get information about bomb in a building, what is the steps to do? The first thing is evacuation of the building. What is evacuation? Evacuation is removing the people from the building. Whichever building has a bomb, or even if there is a rumor there is a bomb, all the people who are inside the building have to be told to get out of the building immediately. So just like a fire drill, they have to go out of the building. And then once they are out of the building, the police seal the building and then start searching for the bomb. So the police, they can use their knowledge to search for the bomb. They also use the bomb disposal squad, who have special equipment to identify bombs. And not only this, there are also dog squads. The dogs can go and smell the bomb and they identify the bomb. So this is how the bombs are searched. And once the bombs is identified, the bomb disposal squad people come, and either they deactivate the bomb within the building, or if the bomb can be shifted, then they take it to a remote area, and then the bomb is disarmed or disconnected. So this is how the bombs are removed. So the people and the public have to have awareness about newcomers, strangers, because these are the people who keep the bombs. CCTVs can help, and security guards can help to prevent attacks. And other than this, the people should also be given awareness, mock drills of evacuating the building. All this will help in saving more life and property. But it is not 100% easy to identify IEDs or improvised explosive device, because the bomb threats can happen anytime, because they can be made easily within a house. But the most of the intelligence agencies, they learn about these bombs, and that is how the country is made safe. Okay, so next we are going to study about the NBC, or nuclear, biological, chemical hazards, and how to overcome safety. Okay, we already studied about hazardous material, chemicals, so I'm going to just go over it again so that you understand. The same thing is biological. See, chemical means all the chemical things like petrol, kerosene, these kind of things are acids, alkalis, these are all chemicals. Biological means there are biological agents like anthrax, they are virus, even coronavirus people say is a biological agent. So countries can fight with each other using this biological warfare. They can use biological fungus, bacteria and virus, they can spread it on another country, so that can happen. Then finally nuclear, so there can be nuclear war, or within a country there can be nuclear leak, either by accident, or some terrorists can leak nuclear radiation in the public area. You know, in the Russian people, there is a Russian police or spy agency which actually injects people who are against the government with this kind of radioactive material. So there are instances when uh, people who have left the country Russia and staying in UK have been injected with this nuclear material, and they get radioactivity and slowly die. So such examples are there. So this is how we nuclear, chemical and biological disasters as well as terrorist attacks can happen. So how do we prevent and how can we be safe from these chemical, biological and nuclear disasters? First thing is, if it's an accident, then it can be due to technical error or human error. So people, when they are carrying this biological, chemical or nuclear material, they do not know how to handle it and they spill it, or in the public area they are not careful, and that causes leakage that leads to spreading of this chemical, biological and nuclear agents. Other than that, there can be natural calamities which lead to, like if there is a tsunami or cyclone, and places where these chemicals or nuclear reactors are there or biological agents are stored, if the things are leaked, then they can cause severe damage to the public people. And also terrorist attacks can happen, and that have to be prevented. So what happens when there are chemical, nuclear, biological disasters? It's not just chemical but nuclear and biological. It causes loss of life, that is, people can die because of this, and it also causes damage to the animals, plants and the environment, both air, water and soil. All these things can be damaged because whether it is biological or chemical or nuclear, it can affect all these things. It can affect the human beings, animals, plants and the environment, which includes air, water and soil. And it can also lead to lot of injuries and deaths to the people. Some examples of biochemical leakage is the Bhopal gas disaster. We have already seen that nuclear disaster happened in Chernobyl and also in Fukushima in Japan. And biological agents, there was an anthrax attack in US. Even the vice president and other people got packages through the postal department, and when they opened the packages, they found anthrax, which is a biological agent which could cause a disease like coronavirus, and people could die. So that happened in US. So how do we overcome these disasters? The first thing is education and training. People need to be educated. They should not open unknown packages, especially high profile people like politicians should not open unknown packages. And they should also be careful when they handle things like chemicals, and all the people who handle chemicals, nuclear and biological things should ensure that they wear proper protective equipment, and they should not carry it in public where it can leak. And also buildings which have chemical, biological and nuclear things, they should be safe buildings. That is, they should be built according to the structure, should be built according to the criteria, guidelines by the government, and it should be earthquake proof and cyclone proof. Then that is the infrastructure. So all the manpower, everything should be correct, and the public should also be ready. That is, the medical hospitals and doctors, they should know how to treat nuclear, biological and chemical accident people. So any person who is affected by gas leakage or a nuclear reactor leakage or biological agent, they should be immediately quarantined and they should be treated properly. With the doctors should also protect themselves from these agents, because it's just like coronavirus, they can also get the chemical or especially biological agents and nuclear agents can spread from them to the other people. Finally, they should have proper response and relief and rehabilitation for all the people who are affected by this. They should at the state level or national level and the district level, all those who are affected should be given proper relief, they should be given compensation, and they should be rehabilitated. So this will help the people to overcome any tragedy and disaster. So that will make sure that any disaster caused by nuclear or chemical or biological agents are overcome. Sometimes there can be death and loss of life, but once the disaster happens, there is nothing we can do. We can only take we can only respond and rehabilitate the affected people. As I said, chemical, biological, and even nuclear hazards, they can lead to generations of deformities in the people. That is because the genes or genetics is changed. The chromosomes of the person gets mutated, so for generations they can have severe disability. So this should be faced, and that is why rehabilitation of the affected people is very important. Okay, so with this we have finished the 4th chapter. We will be going on to the next chapter in the next class. Thank you.